Welcome to episode 16 of Brewing Through the Multiverse. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm your co-host Joel.
Oh, there it is. Nice. How we doing, man?
Doing the manliest drink ever, a hard Arizona iced tea. Peach.
Oh, come on. This stuff's fantastic.
Goes down easy, I'll
Oh,
tell you that.
yeah.
What are you drinking?
Oh, yeah. I got that DC over DT again.
Oh.
It was delicious. I saved two more for today, so we're bringing it back. It was really good.
Yeah.
Can't say enough about this one. So DC over DT. The science knows.
Science formula.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so before we get into, I have a whole bunch I want to talk about with Standard. Let me put on our banner here. Okay.
Oh.
So we played Commander on last Friday. I just want to go over that real quick. We went to Marks, we played. That was good sessions. We got six games in.
I got 6 in, yeah.
And I finally got to play Clark. So
as an outside observer, I have to say how impressed I was with how much Quark does. He does so many things, and I feel like you had a lot of like cool, fun things to do. It didn't feel like it was a deck built on a budget with like a specific constraint. Um, the degenerate in me naturally was like, oh, add more colors to add more things, but I'm impressed with what you managed to do with a monocolor deck with on like a tight budget.
Thanks. Yeah, the honestly, my opinion is the Chandra tribal in there. That Chandra theme to it is what helps it move along. I have all the Chandras that produce extra mana, so it's a great way to just get that extra pump. I learned a few things. One, I don't know the rules with casting and copying so much. I'm very unfamiliar. I got to get better at that in order to play a little better. The Cascade threw me off. I thought if I copied a spell with Cascade, I would get Cascade twice, but it is only on the cast, not the copy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing I found out is I don't need Quark out turn 2. He was actually hurting my game plan. I only need him out if I can, roll a second time with Quark's thumb, or if I really want to go swingy, or let's say I've made 18 treasure tokens and I have the ability to cast it 2 or 3 times for it to go off. But I learned a lot. I'm excited to tinker with it a little bit more, and there'll be a lot more Quark in my future. So that was
My
cool
counterpart is officially ordered. It's on the way.
Nice.
So, Drana will be bringing back subpar creatures from the graveyard soon.
Hey, anything that comes free from the graveyard is okay in my book.
True.
Free is for me. But no, I wanted to highlight that. Mark, thank you for having us. That was a good time.
Quark, thank you for having us.
Yeah, hopefully. Oh, I just want to say, so the whole point was I wanted to cast Fiery Gambit. And then that card still, we're like 3-4 weeks out, has not come in the mail yet. So when I finally cast it, I had to use a proxy, which was just some black card I had laying around. And on the first try, I hit heads 3 times in a row. So Fiery Gambit says if you flip coins until you hit tails, if you end up with 3 heads, you get to deal 9 damage and draw 9 cards. And it just happened the first try without the actual card. There was no build up to it. I had no anticipation. It was very deflating. I'm almost upset that it worked that quickly.
So it's just, yeah.
I don't know.
Went a little too early there, bud. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah. It was all so fast. But, all right. So I did something this week, and I really am curious to put this out to you and hear what you have to think about this. I know that we talked about how Standard is in a weird spot right now. There's a lot of sets. Are there cards that need to get banned? Are there, decks that are overpowering? But you don't really play, and I don't really pay attention. So what I did is this week, I recorded some standard stats.
Stats. Stealing from another channel.
That's all right. We don't make money here, so they
I was
can't
gonna
take
say, what are
anything
they
from
gonna do to
us.
us?
But so what I did is I played 40 games of Arena. They were all right at level one not mythic, level one platinum. So it's
Okay.
after gold, level one.
Yeah,
So we were right in the
decent
middle.
ranking.
Yeah, right in the middle. And what I did is I played 40 games total, 20 of them with my new mono black deck, and 20 of them with my Rakdos disguise deck. And ultimately, so let me just say, the top deck that was played the most was tied between mono white and mono black.
Interesting.
Yes, I thought it would have been a multicolored deck is what's playing more.
What was the mono white deck?
The mono white deck ended up being the top cast cards were Lunarch Veteran for turn
Okay.
one, wedding announcements out the
Yeah,
ass,
all of them, all the wedding announcements.
a lot of Adeline and the Wandering Emperors, obviously.
Yeah.
Skrelv and Skrelv's Hive was everywhere. The white enchantment from Wilds of Eldraine that makes the 2/2 knight, but also comes out as that
Oh,
enchantment.
like Knightly Valor or something.
Yeah. The Chase Mythic
Oh,
enchantment. That was the
is it
only one I didn't
mythic?
write down.
Oh, the
Yeah, it's the
okay.
cycle. It's the
Yeah, yeah,
cycle.
okay. I thought you meant like there's a card that makes a 2/2 knight and then also but like is an aura that gives like +2/+2 and like
Oh, yeah. No,
vigilance
this
or
is
something.
to
I think it's
make
called
that.
Knightly Valor.
Yeah, they make the 2/2 knight, and it happens at instant speed, which always gets me every time. Um, but so ultimately, the mono white deck is just make little creatures, get out wedding announcement, get out Adeline, pump them all, and get in there. There's also that card Resolute Reinforcements, which is 1 and a white. It's a 1/1 with flash that when it comes out, make a 1/1. Card was everywhere. So the white decks are just making simple, small things, pumping them up, and exiling your stuff to get through.
See, I wonder if that is in because I peek at the meta game that MTG Goldfish puts up a lot of the time, and I wonder if the mono white deck. Well, first of all, we have to say the caveat that it's best of one, right? Like you played all these in best of one.
Yes, for
Okay,
sure.
so it makes a lot of sense uh, to do that strat because the aggro tends to be better in the game one type of scenario, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
yeah,
So I could see
for
why you
sure.
saw a lot of that. But I also was just about to say that I wonder if it's in response that it still is listing the top of the metagame being both Esper mid-range and like the Atraxa kind of domain thing, and I get curious if it's a response to like getting under control. You know what I mean? Just like
Yeah, yeah. It,
bashing
it could
face
be.
before control can get off the ground.
It could be. There was maybe 3, 4 games where control was my opponent. So over here, I had one run in with domain. One Atraxa deck was out there, and in terms of Esper, I honestly didn't see it. I saw one Demir deck. I saw a Bant deck. I saw one Orzov deck, one Azurius deck, but I don't believe any of them were full blown Esper in my 40 runs. So that was not present at all.
Did you run into any Boros?
Yes, so Boros is number 2. So white and black are the top decks. The next two are Boros and Gruul. So it's either you're running mono black or you're splashing green for okay, so the black decks are mainly Shieldred,
Of
Lily of the
course.
Veil, Phyrexian Obliterator, Tenacious Underdog, fucking Deep Cavern Bats. Fuck that card.
Hell yeah, brother. Deep
And
cavern
then
bats.
yeah, and then Vraska and Phyrexian Arena. So that's ultimately you're just playing those cards,
Yeah,
and
black
then you can
value.
yeah, and they're dude. It's so good. It's so good. The Lily of the Veil ended up being one of the most powerful cards I came against in the decks I was playing. Um, I had a real issue, and I ultimately ended up changing my decks for removal. Bitter Triumph is better than Infernal Grasp, in my opinion. So Bitter Triumph is an instant removal speed. Removal, it's destroy target creature or planeswalker, and then you have to either discard a card or take 3 damage. So it's 1 more damage than Infernal Grasp, but you can hit planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend if you're playing Infernal Grasps and you're getting taken by lilies, just switch them with a Bitter Triumph. It worked out great for me. But anyway, so the black decks are splashing in green for Glissa, the Sunslayer,
Yeah.
and Dreadmoss Knights. Just a splash. The white decks are splashing in red if they're going to use a color. And it's to get Gleeful Demolition.
Yeah, I
Is
see
what I
that
ran
on the
into a
list
lot.
here.
Yeah, dude, you cast out the Voldaran Epiture turn 1,
Yep.
which makes the one blood token, and then Gleeful Demolition turns that blood token into 3/1/1s. They also threw in Italian War Leader's Call is being run, so that's a thing.
The other thing that I see on here is Knight Errant of Eos. I don't know how to say that, but the Convoke. Did you run into that guy? The 5
Yes,
mana Convoke Knight.
only in one deck, and it did do very well. I'm sure it was in other decks. I just didn't see it. My decks play pretty quickly, so it's either I win or I lose. But I did see that card, and it was good. I mean, you make 3 or 4 dumb 1/1s, and suddenly you get this 4/4 out. So
Yeah, I
value.
think that's a pretty cool play of the Voldaran Epicure into Gleeful Demolition. I think that's really a
Mm-hmm.
real slick play. Because for 2 mana,
Yeah,
you're getting 3/1/1s over 3 bodies. I mean, people I think would probably play. That's like what was Hordling Outburst? Isn't that 3 mana for 3/1/1s? Like, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like the going rate for a 1/1 is 1 mana, so the fact that you get 3 is pretty intense.
yeah. No,
And plus, you still
absolutely.
have the Epicure body, so yeah,
And
that's
that
that's
Epicure
cool.
body dealt 1 damage when it entered too.
Yeah, so
So it's a lot.
value,
What I
value.
ended up doing is, like I said, I always run a braid, one of my favorite removal spells right now. And when they target it with the Gleeful Demolition, I blow up their token. That way
That's
they don't get it.
beautiful. They don't get anything.
Yeah,
I love that.
I mean they could crack the blood token if they want to in response, but at
But
least
still, they're
they
not
don't
getting
get the
three
one
one
ones.
ones that they're using to
Yeah,
convoke other shit.
yeah. So uh, yeah, the white deck is powerful. The black deck. So let me just read off the rest of what I came across.
Go.
It was of the 40, 8 of them were white and 8 of them were black. So almost half of the decks I came across were either mono white or mono black. Then I had 6 Boros, 4 Gruul. The Gruul were mainly dinosaur decks and are doing very well. Golgari for 3. Rakdos for 2. Red for 1. And then 1 green, Orzhov, Azorius, random stuff that happens. So
I'm
really,
shocked you only ran into 1 mono red.
two mono red. I'm sorry,
Oh
two
yeah,
mono red.
but still, I'm
And
surprised that's not higher up there.
yeah, no. Nope. If you're gonna go a mono color, it seems like white or black's the way to do it, and then it
Yeah.
goes pretty fast. So
Well, that's cool. I mean, it seems like fairly diverse, at least in the best of 1 bracket.
yeah, it is. Now, what I would say is that of all the cards, Shieldred is definitely the problem. Lily was the most of an issue for me, but it seems like there was so many games where the Demir game they dropped a Shieldred. They were at 2 life. They dropped the Shieldred and the Tezzeret that they had out. Drew 2 cards. They gained 4 life. They cast Proliferate or that card that let them draw 1 card. They gained another life, and immediately
Yeah, they're
they
back
were
in
out
it.
of fatal range. Right, while having a 4/5 that blocks, and so I'm tired of Shieldred. I think it would be really nice if she went. I think clearly Mono Black is being pushed because of her, and I would call for her
Do
ban.
you think with her out of there though, would that neuter Black, or do you think Black still has plenty of tools to play with without her?
Dude, tons. You don't need her at all. I mean, there's a ton of cards in the 4-drop slot anyway for black. They could find something. I think it would be fine. If anything, though, I would maybe get rid of something from white. But I don't like calling for bans. I'm just saying if there were bans,
Yeah, you wouldn't be
Shieldred
sad.
seems like it would be the one. You know.
So you know what's funny about Shieldred though is that when I was playing standard, I was on a mono green list. Shieldred wasn't the thing that like bothered me at all. Um, just because I felt like they're getting life, but like they couldn't deal with like the stompy nature of the deck.
Yeah.
So I wonder how Gruul fares, like Gruul dinosaurs like fares against like black strategies, because that's basically the same thing. You know what I mean? Just stompy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I it's the second shield grid that drops, because you're right. Because I mean, someone drops a shield grid, you can find removal. Now it's weird for mono green to not worry about the shield grid because she's got the death touch. But I guess if you're swinging with 5/3s
Guff
and six
triplets is
sixes,
the
you
why I
can,
don't care
yeah.
about Shieldred, because if they kill one, then all of
Mhm.
a sudden the others get stronger, and then you play your second one. Once you get the second Guff triplets down, then it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
they kill one, and then all of a sudden, because then you don't mind losing them. It's basically if you don't mind losing what you're swinging with, which when I was running Guff triplets, I did not ever mind losing one. In fact, I encouraged it.
Yeah, because you're
And they
not
have
losing
trample.
anything.
Yeah.
You're not losing power at all. You're losing a body, but not power. So keep it going for sure. But yeah, so we've got that here. Some other cards that I want to mention that I saw a lot were a lot of trumpeting carnosaurs.
Oh, that card is disgusting.
Dude, it's so good.
It's
The
so good.
discover trigger. There was a few chamils that I saw, but trumpeting carnosaur is definitely what you're gonna do if you're gonna get some discover. Preacher, the schism was out there. Bonehorde Dracusaur was nice to see a bunch of them flying around.
Weird.
Um, the best removal spell is seems to be Shieldred's Edict.
Edict. Yeah.
A lot of
They're
that,
worth
just
like
because
a
it could hit
dollar in
blockers.
paper.
Yeah.
It's like a dollar
Yeah.
uncommon. That's not bad.
Mm-mm. No, it was good. And then Intrepid Adversary is a card I didn't see a lot of, so I didn't put it on the staples list. But for white decks, Intrepid Adversary is that 2-drop, 3/1 when it enters. You could pay mana multiple times to give everything 1/1 counters. And that was a great way to pump and get lifelink out there. So
Are you
Intrepid
running Go for
Adversary.
the Throat?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Yeah, that is my number one removal in black. And then
Are you running Cut Down?
no, I don't run any cut downs.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I think personally for 1 more mana, I'd rather get rid of absolutely anything than to have the limitation.
So Cut Down is basically like kill Shieldred. Like that's basically what it says.
Well, cut down is only total of 5. Cut down can hit Shieldred, right?
Oh, total
Yeah.
power. I thought it was power or toughness 5 or less. Never mind.
Oh, I wish. Yeah. Cut down. It's good for the turn 2 plays and everything, but once they're dropping like an Atali, I don't know. I need that. I need that unadulterated, straight up removal.
Yeah.
That's why the Bitter Triumph, the Infernal Grasp, I'll pay the life just to make sure that it's going away. I'm not running the Shieldred's Edict though. I don't like it. I'd rather just target something.
Fair.
Now I know there's Tamio Safekeeping was something I came across. There's that white one that gives protection. So there is
Tyvar's
that,
Last
but
Stand or Tyvar's Stand or whatever.
yeah, all that stuff. And listen, if you get me with it, you got me. But I want to destroy your stuff.
So how disrupted did you find Deep Cavern Bat? Because I find that interesting that that's so good. Is
So
it
it's
the
a
hand
1/1.
exiling? Yeah, it's a 2
Yes,
mana 1/1 with flying and lifelink.
it comes in. It takes your small removal right away. It's a 1/1 with lifelink. It's gonna get at least 2 hits on you because it just took your removal. You finally get removal. Now you have to spend removal on a 1/1 fucking bat. And yes, you get a removal back, But then they play a second bat. And that's when it's like, fuck, man, now I got to spend more removal on this bat. I hated it. I ended up finding myself focusing on this 1/1 way more than I would have cared to, because you know that, it's holding on to one of your cards. Like, part of my hand is underneath that bat. I want that bat out of here. But what kind of resources am I going to spend to get rid of
Yeah,
this
to get
bat?
rid of it.
And then while the bat is out, they drop a Lily of the Veil and they +1 her. So now you have to discard a second card. So now I'm 2 cards down and I still have to use a card to get rid of this bat. And that doesn't help me with the Lily.
Plus,
So
if
the
you don't
bat
have
with
any
Lily,
flying, it's just poking you all the time.
yeah, the bat with Lily is kind of really the thing. And then, oh man, Grix comes out, and then the bat hits you, and then they get to draw a card. So they've taken a card, they get a card. It's the
Pretty
bat.
swingy.
The bat's real.
The bat's
Yeah.
legit.
Yeah, who would have thunk it?
One thing I do find interesting is that I'm looking at the top cards in Standard right now, and I find it very interesting that nothing from Murders has made it onto the list of the top cards.
Yeah, so I have a little list here of the newest cards played, and the only Murders cards that I really saw was War Leader's Call. Right, that's Murders.
Yeah,
a new set.
that's
That's
the Anthem
man.
and Impact Tremor.
That's it. Just that one card. And I did see over my 40 games one disguise card, and I killed them before they even got to flip it.
What was it? Was it good?
I never got to see it. I killed them before it flipped.
It doesn't show you? Well, I guess you could look at their graveyard and see.
Yeah,
because
I
technically,
could've.
by the rules, once it's like destroyed, once it changes zones, like, and at the end of the game, like when the game's over, you're supposed to be able to see it.
Yeah, I didn't care enough. I'm normally lit as fuck when I'm playing these games. I'm just laying around. I'm so lucky that I actually wrote down the stats after every game, so it was a miracle. I did. So my stats were with my black deck, which, funny enough, everyone's running around black decks. I decided to build a black deck. My stats was 11 wins, 9 losses.
Not bad. Over 50.
My Rakdos disguise deck was 9 wins, 11 losses.
Okay.
So at the end of these 40 games, I ended up in the exact same rank and tier on the ladder because it's a 1-for-1. So
you're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, I guess this is my power level is right at Platinum 1. But so it did show my black had an over 50% win rate, and the disguise deck was a little less powerful. It did well, but the problem is you need to get them cast as disguise cards in order for them to do something. So it's a 2-step process for any card. And as good as they are and as fun as the synergy is, disguise is not standard power.
It's limited fun, absolutely, but I can't imagine it would be. There's nothing really that you like could flip that I'd be like, oh no, don't flip that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I had very powerful wins. What it really comes down to is if you can get the pyro down turn 2 and turn 3. Yeah, turn 3, get that 6-2 face down while you flip her, and then the next turn get another one out while you flip. There's ways that you don't have to swing and a lot of damage happens, but
I feel like that's almost like a cheesy way to do it, though. You know what I mean? Like it's not the fact that they're disguise cards. It's like that you're flipping. You know what I mean? Like you're not using the card. You're just using like the fact that it flips over.
Yes. There's
you know what I'm trying to say? Like
some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are. So ultimately, there's the 6-2. There's a 3-mana 6-2. That when it dies, it deals 3 damage. So that's a good card. That really is a good card. If you swing in and you get the 6 damage, but then they destroy it, you've dealt 9 damage for the.
Yeah, that's a huge swing.
That's a good one. And if you flip it while the pyro chick is out, that's 6 damage from the flip, 6 from the hit, and then 3 from it dying. So that's something.
That's hefty.
What I would say probably is the best disguise card that I played against was, and I don't have it, Written down here, it's a 2-mana goblin, 1 in a red, 2/1 with prowess and haste, and then it has disguise for 6. When it gets flipped, you discard your hand and draw 3 cards. I like this card because a 2-mana 2/1 with haste and prowess is good for any red deck.
Yeah.
2-mana 2/1's haste. If you draw it late game, you put it down. No one's going to handle it, and then at the end of your opponent's turn, you just flip it, discard your hand, draw 3. Next turn, you're ramped and ready to go. I think that's something that in the right decks can be standard playable. So. Don't have the name for it. Sorry if you're listening.
You heard it here first, folks. We don't know what it is, but it's good.
It's a 2/1 goblin with disguise. Go find it.
It's good.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's rare. I think it's an uncommon. Go try it out. But so ultimately, my opinion is it's a balanced standard. It's a little heavy set on the white and the black. There are no battles. The only 2 battles I saw was Gobakon and Rangatha. There are no other new cards coming out. I mean, the Dreadmoss Knight, the Trumpeting Carnosaur, Gleeful Demolition. Those are some new cards, but really the staples are older
Kamigawa.
sets. Right. And that was my lesson. And at the end of the day, I'm playing underpowered decks or, non-meta decks. And
Fringe.
I held a 50% win rate straight up, full 50.
Cheers
so, yeah, cheers. I liked it. It was fun. I enjoyed all 40 games. I didn't get sick of it. I didn't come back saying this was lame. I felt like I was doing things. I was stopping things. And wow, okay. After talking about this, Standard's in a good spot. I like it.
Never mind. All right, you're here first. Standard's fine.
Yeah. At least if you're playing best of 1 in the middle of Platinum,
it's great.
Everything's okay.
Yeah. And you don't want to see any murders cards at all.
Yeah. The next thing, though, is that's all the stats I got. That was pretty cool. I built a goblin deck, a Rakdos goblin deck in Standard this morning, and I had phenomenal results with it. There are 4 black goblins that end up really working with this deck. And there is an anthem, a goblin anthem from Dominaria, I think, that is surprisingly powerful. I will continue to play it. I'll check it all out. I have to have a side piece that I just talk about these dumb tech decks that I do constantly. We got to figure that out and set that up. But Standard Rakdos Goblins is coming next. Fucking why do I do this to myself, man?
Because it's fun. And I'm surprised at how much success you see. I mean, you went toe to toe. 50% win rate is good against an open field. You know what I mean? Like you played against meta, and you still managed to hold your own. So, I mean, maybe it is a good sign that Standard, obviously there's cards that everyone plays, but that's not to say that there isn't room to brew, and you could steal a bunch of wins just from people not expecting disguise cards or what have yous.
Yeah. It was fair. It was balanced. This morning I played, and I want to just call one deck that I personally felt that you would love to play. Maybe you'll like it. So it is an Orzhov deck.
All right, I'm in.
And ultimately, it's running. There is the Saga, the Restoration of Eiganjo. It's 2 and a white. When it enters, search your library for basic planes, reveal it, put it into your hand. The second part is you may discard a card. When you do, return target permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So there's some recursion.
Big fan.
And then exile this. It comes out as a 3/4 vigilance. And whenever it attacks or blocks, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. So they were dropping that like crazy. They had Shieldreds in there. They had Laeza in there.
Ooh.
For the life gain, the flying, and as things died, they would get it back.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Inspiring Overseer, again, just to draw, it's a flyer, draws a card, gain a life.
Right, isn't it draw a card, gain 1 life?
Yep. On
I actually
a 2/1
just
flyer.
cut that for my angel deck.
It's good. And then wedding announcement, the Restless Fortress land that can swing. They played the Virtue of Loyalty. That's the enchantment that I was meant to say, where it starts pumping everything. Like I said, Shieldred. And it was just this really nice Orzhov deck that went hard, man. The recursion, the redundancy, the damage, the life gain, everything that was happening was helping them and gaining, anything was just inadvertently getting a card out, gaining them life, dealing damage to me. And I was very impressed by that one. That was cool. But didn't see it much on the ladder. Just one deck, and I wanted to shout that one out. Yeah, man. So that's where we're at.
Standard.
Yeah. But let's go to fun or trash.
Da
Fun or
da
trash,
da
buddy.
da da da. Fun or trash. Da 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 da.
All right. So I found a card. Not found it. This is a card that I play all the time. Hold on. Here we go. My last TC over DT. I play this all the time. It gets passed around among us like crazy. I like it. I'd like to defend it. Bucknards!
I fucking knew it.
So Bucknard's Everfull Purse is a 2-mana artifact, and it says 1 and tap it. Roll a d4. Create a number of treasure tokens equal to the result. That player to your right gains control of Bucknard's Everfull Purse.
I think this card is fun. Is it like a format staple? No. But having been in many games with Bucknards out, I've never. To me, it kind of reminds me of like the Monarch, where it's just like another kind of game piece that gets tossed around. The extra mana is nice. You never lose anything because even if you only roll a 1, it just replaces the 1 mana you spent to tap it in the first place. So, and then also the fact that it goes against the like the table rotation is cool. Playing like holding it up, knowing that like okay, I don't need to tap it right now, so I'm just gonna hold on to the purse for a while. Is another play you can make. You don't have to tap it every turn, but usually people do. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this card. I think this card's fun.
Fun. Awesome.
And I never have to run it because I know that you will. So then I'll get it one way or another.
That's it. I love when people get it and they proclaim, I'm not going to use this. Fuck this card. And then you see them counting their mana and they're like, oh, damn, I need just like 1 more mana.
Yeah, and then
all right, I'll crack the purse.
Time to use the purse.
Yeah, but it's fun. Obviously, it's fun. This is a good time. But is it actually a good card? Because I run it with the intentions of a ramp for me, and by the time it gets to turn 4, no, it's not. So it's fun trash?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, okay, trash to me is like this card adds nothing. Like it's just bad. But I would say fun. This game is not good or trash. It's fun or trash. And I think it qualifies as fun for sure. I mean, when you think about it realistically, though, it's 3 mana to cast, right?
Only 2 mana.
So 2 mana to cast, but regardless, the fact that you can pay 2 and then have a chance of not getting any value at all. Besides, I guess you could make the argument that you're turning a colored land into any color treasure. Maybe that like there's some, but like you're spending 2 mana to not get something. You know what I mean? You could be spending 2 mana on like a Fellwar Stone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's fair. Like, okay. Yeah, that's well put. I would have to very much agree that you can spend that 2 mana on something that will help you more steadily, and that won't help your opponents. Because sometimes I crack it for 1, and then the next person that cracks it gets 3 or 4, and that is a big ramp for someone who literally didn't have to cast that card or do anything.
So this is definitely firmly in the fun category, but not. Okay, it's not a good card.
The fun overweighs the trash.
Yeah.
Well, good. All right. So I'm just happy to hear that you enjoy this card, and when I cast it all the fucking time, that it's not like, oh my god, why is Mike playing Bucknards again? All right, cool. Well, good. Um, all right, let's go to our actual commander talk about commander power levels.
Okay. So I've been thinking about this a lot over the past week. And this conversation was brought up because, and I believe it started when I was playing my Angels deck, and I played a Entwined Tooth and Nail, and I brought out a Shalai and a Avacyn. And then with my commander Sigarda, it made a very solid board state that was, kind of hard to deal with besides with Mass Exile. And you had made the comment, I forget what do you remember what power level you claimed it to be?
So I said, I mean, my understanding would be that it's pushing a 9, that it's an 8, because I think you said it was a 7, and I'm like, well, it's got to be an 8. And your idea was that it was a theme and that it's not quite an 8, correct?
Yeah, that was basically the argument I was making.
Yeah.
So I did some research online. I looked around, had some conversations with people in person, and one thing that seems to be a general consensus across like all the different places that I looked is that power level is more so determined by what turn can you threaten a win rather than what cards go into the deck. Now, obviously, what cards go into the deck affect what turn you can threaten a win. However, I actually re-listened to back in 2019. The Command Zone did a podcast. One of their episodes was like determining power levels, and they made a great point that like if you're building a goat tribal deck, or I know one of our play group is interested in making like a crab tribal deck. Putting a force of will into a crab tribal deck doesn't make it an 8 because it has force of will in it. It's still
Yeah.
only a crab tribal deck.
Yeah.
So that's number one, is that I don't think you can judge the power level of a deck based on like individual card choices. It's more so like what is the game plan and how quickly is it activating the game plan. Which is why I was claiming that Angels is a 7, because ultimately all it does is just play a couple Angels and then hope to like swing at you.
Right. And so my argument for that would be, well, I guess the first thing I want to point out is how quickly a turn ends. So if someone builds a very powerful stacks deck, it might not work very quickly, but I would call that a powerful deck. So sometimes, depending on the play style, an infinite combo or some sort of turn 4 win might not always display how powerful it is.
Agreed. I
Um,
feel like there are exceptions for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. Um, I think the amount of staples very much do kind of dictate, because even if you do crabs, or let's say you do a merfolk deck, you can build a CEDH merfolk deck just because they're merfolk. You can put the combos in, and the staples. If you put a force of will, it's okay.
I
If
disagree
you
with
put
that
a,
statement.
yeah, okay.
I don't
All
think
right.
there
So
is a
what part of it?
CEDH Merfolk deck.
But can't you do a quick combo with merfolk if
Like
you were
what
to build
though?
it with tutors and stuff?
But what
The
do you what
Thassa's
is the
Oracle,
combo? Well, that's
Thassa's
okay. So
Oracle or something.
Thoracle is one of the most
Mm-hmm.
common CDH win cons there is. But
Right.
you're not playing Thoracle because it's a Merfolk. You're
Right.
playing it because of the lab man effect it has stapled onto it. So
Right.
at that point, then it's how are you milling your deck out? And then when you consider that option, in blue and blue white, you're not really not going to do that. Then if you're running like Demir, then you're running like consultation Thoracle kind of lines. So you're not at that point. You're the win con isn't Merfolk anymore. So I don't feel like it's valid to call it a Merfolk tribal deck. Like if like to me a tribal
Right.
deck wins by I'm going to use these creatures of all the same type to do this thing that makes me win, as opposed
Right.
to this creature has a type and it just so happens to be evolved in like another combo.
Right. Okay. Which I get. And I agree too. So ultimately, all right, let's separate it first from the generalization of what power level decks are, and specifically your Angel deck. My daughter. Hi. The reason why even brought it up in the first place was there was the Entwined Tooth and Nail, there was the Teferi's Protection, there was the Avacyn, and then the Lockout where we can't target anything. Now, that does not mean it's powerful. That does not mean we can't get past it. Like you had said a million times, it's like board wipe, exile, or make me sacrifice, or there's ways. Clearly, there's ways, but it's the number. Like I said, like if a blue deck has a Force of Will, okay, that's fine. But if they have a Force of Will, a Mana Drain, a Cyclonic Rift, a Mystic, at what number of staples, and 2 tutors, what number of these staple cards do you finally say, hey, I officially, by putting this 4th staple in, moved it up from a 7 to an 8?
I think it's the win con. I don't think it's the staples. Because think about my board state. Even with those cards out, I had what? I had 3, and then at one point I had 4 creatures total. Whereas Mark on the other side of the board, who was playing a Tyranids Precon, had like an entire board of like 9, 10 power, toughness, trampling monsters. So even despite that my board couldn't get removed, I couldn't win with that. Just like if you had, like what are you doing to win? You can counter every spell I cast, but if at the end of the day you're only swinging at me with a 2/2 bird or like a 1/4 crab, like that's not winning the game quickly.
Good point.
You're right. Is the point I'm making? Is that
you're right?
It's just because you're
sitting there with a good, just because you're sitting there with a good board and good cards does not mean you have power. Is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that like if you're casting a 9 mana, because I'll make this argument too. I don't think anybody thinks Insurrection is considered to be like a CEDH caliber card. It's 8 mana to cast. Tooth and Nail is 1 more mana to cast, and I can bet you that most of the time Insurrection will probably win the game more than an Entwined Tooth and Nail, unless you're playing like a combo kind of deck, in which case you find like combo pieces, which I can understand that kind of being like not Avenger of Zendikar. No, Avenger of Zendikar makes all the plants.
Yes.
When it comes out that and Craterhoof, like that's a very common one. But even in that combo, they don't all have haste, so you need another card to give them all haste, and that's a game ender. Yeah. So really, it comes down to like if you're spending 9 mana and not winning the game, which I didn't, I don't feel like it's that much of a problem.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You make good points. The only reason why it even came up was there was the Entwined Tooth and Nail. There was the Teferi's Protection. There was, the Avacyn and the lockdown that happened. And you also cast Defense of the Heart, I think, right? Defense of the Heart is the other
Defense
one?
of the Heart
There was 2 separate times when you tutored. And maybe it's tutoring that triggers me more than, because I understand. And for sure, that Teferi's Protection worked out perfect for you. So before you had the life link from from what's your
Lyra.
there? Lyra. Before Lyra came out, you didn't have any life gain, and Mark swung at you, and you would have lost if it 100%. Wasn't for the Teferi's Protection.
Yep.
But so at that point, you had done 2 different tutors for multiple creatures. You had gotten the Teferi's Protection. You had your lockdown. So that's what brought it up. Maybe it's the tutoring. Once 2 separate tutors trigger, it means something. But you're making a good point that you were never at a position of actually winning. You were just going for value. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going for the best creatures in your deck. Every deck has a best creature. So, to say like, oh, yeah, this is a powerful creature, but don't you have powerful creatures too, is a fair statement. And that your powerful staple of Teferi's Protection was really just to save you from losing the game instead of trying to win the game.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Which is where I think the difference lies. The way that the command zone had it broken down into chunks was that 1 and 2 is jank, and by that they said like people sitting in chairs, or like everyone characters that look like celebrities, like weird shit like that that don't have a real like game plan. 3 and 4 was like the casual level where it's like I have a card and I just threw together like random stuff from like the set that I drew. You know what I mean? I drew had a commander and I just threw some of the cards from the set that I pulled or what have you. I would say that also 3 and 4 is where you get like the old precons that were like when they only released two per set. You remember when they did that for a while, where they were like
Yep.
lower powered ones. That's in like the 3 kind of 4 area. Nowadays, especially with the last like two sets, I feel like precons are generally in like the 5 or 6 area, which is what they described
6
as
at least.
as focused, which is
Yeah.
having a game plan, but like the mana bases might not be there. You still have like some tap lands, what have you. You're at like you still have a bunch of like fun cards that you just like want to throw into a deck, but has like a specific like plan and works hard to get to that plan. 7 and 8s they called optimized, which is where I feel like most of my decks fall, which is like more perfect land bases with like less to little to no tapped lands. Um, Not as many fun cards. It's all everything's right focused on like getting the strategy off. And then 9 and 10 is competitive, where it's just no holds barred, balls to the wall,
Right.
trying to win as fast as possible.
Right. Like, yeah, non-interactive. Let me just get that nut. Just
Yeah,
get that nut.
exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Threatening like
So,
turn 2 or 3 wins.
which is all fair, and that I think that goes to the second thing that we were kind of talking about that night too. Of like, we have this 10 power level system, and as 90% of the players were only using 4 numbers. Do you have a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9? You know,
Yeah,
no one has a 10. No one I know of has a 10. No one I know of has less than a 5. So
yeah.
we're stuck with 4 numbers out of a 10 number system. And does maybe this number need to change?
I mean, maybe it's just, or I think it's just us as deck builders. I think once you reach a certain level of competence in deck building, you don't want to build like I just threw random cards together decks anymore. Like once you kind of know how
Yeah.
it works, like not that like it's you have to be more intentional about it. I feel like once you've gained more skill in the game, because then it's like I specifically am not including like these better cards. Like for instance, the Drana deck that I have coming out, the budget one, I would say is probably going to be around a 4. My zombie deck I say is probably around a 4. It's not like or maybe a 5, but it's not like they're not powerful, but just they just have a theme that they stick to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
When I was
Um,
talking, I'm sorry, finish your point.
oh, no, I got a question, but go ahead. Because it's
Okay,
just a question.
this is one more thing is when I was talking to Tyler, and I don't necessarily know if I agree 100% with this, but I kind of liked where his head was at, was we were discussing some CDH decks, I'm considering building one, what have you, and he said that like in his mind a 10 is the top of the format, like god tier decks, which there have been over time where just some decks like have win rates that are way higher than most. And so like most like 10 is almost like not even attainable unless it's some above beyond the pale like just incredible over the top like amazing CDH deck. Most CDH decks fall in the 9 category because 10 is like
Yeah.
almost reserved for like above and beyond excellence and like wins most games, like kind of thing. Then like the decks that used to be good but have kind of fallen out of favor, he put it at an 8.5. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily think that a CDH deck could ever be an 8.5 unless you're running like a more like fringe jank strategy, but you're still doing the CDH thing, then I could kind of see that being an 8.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my Keurig black deck, where it was
Yeah.
like, it was going for combos, but
Yeah,
it
but you're
wasn't
also not running.
optimized.
You're not
So,
running. Yeah, like the Grim Monolith or the whatever, what have
yes.
you, like that kind of thing, where
Yeah.
like there's extra couple of things.
Mox Diamond and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
and the way like what the strategy is to win. Like Rowan, for instance, Rowan could your Rowan deck I feel like is probably an 8, close to an
8.
8.5, missing
Yeah.
just a couple of things, like a couple of the more
Yeah.
common like combo lines or what have you.
Yeah. And I refused when I built Rowan, I refused to look at combos, besides the ones I already know. But even at that, like I tried to avoid that to do an authentic build of it. Because me and you were doing a build, but I'm sure I could definitely push that up some more if I was to look into it. I just say I'm trying not to because
Yeah.
I feel like it poisons the blood. You start seeing all these combos, and suddenly you see combos everywhere. You start putting
Yeah.
them everywhere, and
Well, that's the
I don't
problem
want
with
to.
Rowan is that it can threaten a win on turn 2
Yeah,
or turn 3, which makes it up there.
yeah, I liked it. So the last game we played on Friday, I played Rowan, and it was like turn 3 or turn 4, and I used 30 of my life to make 30 rats with haste. I swung out at everyone, and I would have been able to finish the next game as long as someone didn't deal like 6, 7 damage to me. But it was so early in the game, there was no chance. I removed your Ilharg, and I was all set. And then by the chance of Vile Smasher, I had almost died from Mark's triggers. And it left me in a scenario where now I have no life to do anything, and all I have is 30 rats. And it's those scenarios that I enjoy so much about a CEDH style deck where something super powerful is you can invest so heavy in a plan, and there's like that 10% chance that it can go wrong. And in that scenario it did. And I kind of liked it. It was really cool because now I find myself trying to, what the fuck am I going to do with 30 rats and 3 opponents? Which goes to the question I was just going to ask you. When you build a deck, do you build a deck with the intention of dealing 120 damage to your opponents? Or do you build a deck knowing that you're going to rely on your opponents to do some of the work?
I would say the latter more so than the former. I don't
Yeah.
really. I don't know if I've ever built, not never, but most of the time when I put a deck together, I don't build it with the intention of I need to kill everybody at the table. I tend to build more kind of like grindy value kind of decks where I can hang in there until I know I'm in a position where I can kind of like alpha strike or something. But it's never the intention to like I'm gonna kill everyone at the table at once. Besides when I built Ashling the Pilgrim, which was intended to kill everyone at the same time. But
Yeah, which was
no,
awesome.
yeah, I
I
don't
like
plan.
Jerry. Jerry was my favorite.
Yeah,
Jerry was awesome. I miss
Joy
Jerry
was great.
dearly. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So never with the intention to kill everyone. Like I have made decks where the intention is to kill one person. Like I would
Yeah.
consider my Ilharg like a Bloodhound type of deck where it's just like I'm not gonna do well against everybody unless I get like that little fucking lizard out, which is such a great card. But
Yeah.
Kelthus, the fucking commander helper lizard, great card. But yeah, that deck is more so. Or when I built like an infect deck, it was just to tag one person that spited me in previous game to like bite their ankles
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Which is fair. All right, so that's good to know because I'm curious because I always build my deck with the intentions of building off the backs of my opponents. Like let them do work and always just kind of flow with it all because I things are happening. But I was just curious. I've never honestly asked anybody. It's like, are you
Yeah.
building decks to do all the work, or do you rely?
I look on mine is resiliency, redundancy, value, so that I know that like every time, and I feel like you've seen this in gameplay with me as well, where when I do get slapped down, I'm able to rebuild, and like that's kind of
Yeah.
like how my decks work is just to be able to like hang in there, take a bunch of punches. It's like the Rocky. I like to build Rocky type of decks where he's just getting beat up by
Hmm.
Apollo Creed, and then all of a sudden in the last round he's like, "All right, well, time to win," and then he starts swinging.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. I'd like to say I build my decks like a bedazzled Stanley 40-ounce mug, where it's like it's real flashy. Does it need the bedazzling on it? Because it doesn't fit in my car, cup holder anymore. Um, but like it's cool. It's really good, and it's gonna start a conversation, and I'll be able to kind of show it off a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's not the most practical.
I
But
view your decks
it's
as like a
bedazzled 40-ounce.
I view your decks as like a Brazilian like capoeira like fighter who's like dance fighting and like you could probably catch a couple like feet off. You know what I mean? Like you could kick someone real hard or punch them and they don't expect it, but it looks kind of silly and like an MMA
That's it.
fighter would probably just like punch them in the jaw and like knock them out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, like when I'm playing horse with my son, and for the last letter, I have to do it behind my head to get it into the
Yeah,
basket. Where it's
exactly.
like,
Like
come on,
fun.
man, what are you doing? But also, if you get it, that's pretty
It's like,
cool.
whoa.
Yeah. All right, so that's fair. I I agree with you. So after this conversation, I gotta say, yes, your deck is not an 8; it's a 9. It's a
It's a
it's a 7.
9.
It's a fucking 9. No, it's a 7. Um, I think really what it is you're an optimized player. You had the staples, and just because you had the staples, I mean, even when you went to do the entwine, the tooth and nail, you said you were just going for Brizella and Gisela,
That was the
Bruna and
plan.
Gisela.
Yeah, that was the plan
Yes,
originally. It wasn't even to do
yes,
that.
and it happened to have been exiled
Yeah, it was
or
milled.
during one of the things milled. So that's a testament. If anything, that's your alibi to say no. I wasn't playing an 8. This was a 7. It's just I couldn't get it, so obviously I had to go for an Avicen, which is fair. Do you think people should be building in the 7 or 8, or do you think 5 and 6s are okay?
I think 5 and 6s are okay because a 5 and a 6 can definitely hang with a 7 and 8 depending on like the table and how things go. Because I've played my decks that I've considered to be an 8 when I just couldn't get it off the ground, or we've been caught off guard. Because like I find Gargos really hard to define as like a power level because there's definitely
Mhm.
been times where it just all of a sudden he gets Gargos out on turn like 4 after some like lucky ramps and a soul ring, and then the next turn he's got three 8/8 creatures out, and like board wipes kind of deal with that, but I think in general our pod's been trending away from playing board wipes, so like they kind of stick more often. But then at the end of the day, like it's just like a big creature deck that's just like turning sideways, so like it doesn't have any interaction really to stop somebody from like combo. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't stop the more powerful things. It just so happens that we tend to not play those types of win cons that would like just ignore Gargos and win through means that it can't stop.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
I think
think
you
that's a
kind of hit it
like
on
a
the head.
pod, yeah, pod kind of thing, as opposed to like its
Yeah,
power level being too high.
yeah. Because we do not that we don't run any board wipes, but we typically try not to cast board wipes, especially if a game's gone on for a while. Like I'll sandbag a board wipe and just lose, just so we don't have to
I'll
add
never do
20,
that.
30
I've
minutes.
never once done that.
Oh, I
That's a
have
lie,
really.
actually. No, I was gonna say there have been times when I've won a game earlier in the day, and I specifically like didn't cast the Cyclonic Rift because I knew I already got my win and somebody else was doing something cool. That's something that I've matured as a player, where in the past like couple of years, like once I get a win, I'm much more loose with like what I'm willing to cast and when and whatnot. So I've definitely been in that situation before.
Right,
But if
right.
I think I can, like if I think that's not to say that if I think I can squeeze a win and it just would take like one Cyclonic Rift to like poke, I won't do that, but I won't board
Right.
wipe just to keep everything like down. You know what I mean? Like keep everything down
Yeah.
all the time.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Listen, I'm not saying I won't board wipe to put myself in a better position. I'm just saying if I only have one card in hand and it's a board wipe, and everyone else has a full hand and everything's going on, sometimes it's like, all right, I could board wipe. I'm not going to win this, and I've reset everything. Let's just I clearly I'm going to win this, so I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck who wins. End the game. Let's move on. And a clear example of that was actually when on Friday when we played. It was just me and Joey, and I had a farewell in hand, and he had that's pretty much all I had. He had multiple cards in hand, and I could have board wiped and tried to keep it going while you and Mark sat there doing nothing and see what I could draw and see if I can. But it was one of those things where it's like I, I'm not an advantage. I'm just fucking up the game for everyone else. Let me just concede. I don't have it, and we'll move on to the next game. So
Yeah.
there is, and it's all judgment. I mean, and there I don't blame anybody if someone does have that board wipe. Do the board wipe, bring it on. Let's see what happens. I will always play to the very end because that's some of the best games of Magic is when it gets down to that and someone pulls something off. Those are the memories. So I'll
Yeah.
never poo-poo on those actions. Just for me personally, sometimes it's like, no, let's just get to the next game. I've got another deck I want to play, so and so.
Yeah.
So that's all personal, uh, opinion. But I do want to say also in standard standard stats, no board wipes. I did not see board wipes. I
No
mean,
Sunfall?
I ran into the farewell. I did not see one Sunfall. Not one.
I honestly wonder if it's because it's best of one.
Yeah.
I wonder if board wipes are generally like a sideboard tech card that you bring in when you're going against like aggro, like go wide decks.
Yeah. Yeah. There was Sunfall, and I did run across the Brotherhood's End. That was a board wipe that was cast on me when I was doing my disguise, which of course it would have. But yeah, board wipes apparently are not as much as I had thought. Not a single path to peril, none of that stuff. So, but we'll go back to Commander. I had to say that because I had noticed that and I had meant to mention it to you. So we talked board wipes, but yeah, didn't see many because you don't need it when you got a shield Drid out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Because you want to keep that
board wipe?
motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah. But all right, so let's say moving forwards, we build some more decks. We may, who knows? We may build more Magic decks. It could happen.
I do. I have 2 new ones.
Oh, do you really? Are you actually still building fucking more?
Tomic. I don't know how to say it, but that's completely ordered as well.
Affinity for Planeswalkers?
Yeah. And see, that's actually what I was thinking of when you just asked me that question before about like, oh, do you plan to kill everyone? And I just built that deck with like, oh, what Planeswalkers do I think have the most value? And that's the only like, their only win con is just to grind value out with Planeswalkers. Like that's literally the only like, you know what I mean? Like there's no, I got to get this certain card out or like this little combo or anything like that. It's just these are some cool Planeswalkers that kind of synergize, and hopefully the synergy is enough to win.
Yeah. I don't run Planeswalkers in Commander. I like them in Standard. I'll always have at least one in my deck. There's always a Planeswalker that can do something for your game plan.
Yeah.
In Commander, not so much. In the Krark deck, obviously, I'm running, let's say, 6 Chandras, 7 Chandras, something like that. They worked great. I'm really excited to kind of sneak some more Planeswalkers into my Commander decks. I like it. And it's kind of unlocked this new thing in me where, not that I'm going to build Super Friends, but I think there should be a Planeswalker in every Commander deck to just kind of be
they're fun.
A secondary commander, you know?
Because that's play my Planeswalker deck, actually. You should play Guff.
Oh, I would love to.
Guff is fun.
All right, yeah. But see, that's where my limitations in Magic go, is because I'm good with the rules and I play pretty fast, but I have option paralysis issues. And if I'm sitting there looking at 3 different Planeswalkers and each one has 4 different options, I might not make it a fun environment for everyone playing because, again, we never play sober. And I'm just staring at these multiple choice walls of text, and it's like, I don't know. I'll just +1 them all and fucking pass. I don't know. So I think what I need to do is just drip feed the Planeswalker in.
You get a couple in there. Get a couple Planeswalkers in there.
Yeah, like a little rosemary on your potatoes, you know.
Just a little bit.
Just a little cumin in the fucking.
Some turmeric. Ain't that?
Yeah, mild. But listen, are we playing any Magic anytime soon? Do we have any?
I hope so. We got someone throw it out in the chat. It's usually me. Somebody throw it out in the chat. I'll throw it out in the chat.
I'm going to play some Magic on Saturday with Keldon, Nick, and Carolyn.
You traitor.
I know.
We're gonna have to replace you as our 4th.
I'm a dirty little slut. I get it where I can, you know, sneaking in.
I get it.
But we are going to be playing the introduction commander decks, the beginner commander decks. I honestly I don't even remember which one. I think I'm the zombie deck, but I don't remember. I'm gonna show up and I'm just there to play
Yeah, just there to
Magic.
play.
So hand
Also,
me a
we
deck
have
and
to
let's do it.
plan one soon because I got the Fallout. I got the set of 4, so we'll report back with how fun those are to play.
Like you received it to the house, like it's in your
No, 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 no,
hands.
no, no, no. They don't
Oh,
release until
okay.
the 8th,
Okay.
but I got the set of
Of
4.
March.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're
All
only a
right.
couple weeks
Awesome.
out from that.
Awesome. I'm excited to play that. After how awesome the Doctor Who decks were, Fallout should be fucking amazing.
Yeah,
So
the ones they revealed so far are really fucking cool. I'm low key. I mean, so for just to nerd out a little bit, very excited about the Mardu one because one of the commanders is Mr. House, who's from New Vegas, and I was very concerned that there wouldn't be any New Vegas references in the game. So Mr. House being in there is pretty cool. I'll probably end up doing that. And he's a dice roll commander in Mardu, so I think that's kind of cool too. So maybe I'll kind of lean more heavily into the dice roll. Don't know if I'm going to upgrade them at all. My heart says probably a little bit, not a lot, but like a little, like a tiny, maybe like a 5 card swap, and probably all the lands to make them better. But you know what I mean, like not like
it's
drastic.
like a little rosemary or
Yeah,
turmeric.
exactly. A little, a little bit, like 5 cards
Yeah.
or so. And then the other one that I'm extremely excited about is the Energy Commander, the Jeskai deck with like some scientist lady as the commander, but like it's about energy. And I've had Aetherworks Marvels for years since Kaladesh, which actually shot up in price when they announced that deck too. So I have my
Okay. Nice.
Aetherworks Marvel and I have my Gonti's Aether Heart ready to go. So that'll be exciting for that as well.
Listen, Gonti's Heart. It's a take extra turn, but if you do it, you earned it. You
With
earned it
energy, with actual energy cards, like to
with
me, that's
actual
awesome.
energy. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Gonti. He's provided so much to the Magic multiverse. I love Gonti.
Yeah.
Gonti, Kalidas.
Oh, and
I'm
one last spicy thing before we go that I added to my Clue deck, which worked extremely well. Though more so just because it had like Esper kind of cards. Like Clues didn't actually start coming out till later in the game, so I can't wait to play that more to do more of the Clue thing. But I did not realize that Nev's disc doesn't sacrifice itself to be used. Nev's Disc is just pay 1, tap it, and destroy creatures, artifacts, and enchantments. So if you combine that with Darksteel Forge, I think it's called, just anything that gives all artifacts indestructible, you can just use that indefinitely every turn because it doesn't sacrifice itself. It just says destroy everything.
no. See,
So
this is why
that
I tell your
is gonna be
shit's an
fun.
8 and not a 7. Shit like
It's
this.
gonna be great.
Fuck out here with that.
There's not a
Gross.
lot of
Stop
artifact
it.
creatures in there though. There's some, but it's not a lot. I just think that's fucking fun as hell.
No, that shit's trash, bro.
Trash.
No, that's cool. I like it. And listen, if you're still running Nev's disc, in 2024, props to you.
Plus,
You're doing
Darksteel Forge
something.
is 9 mana to cast. So again,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're letting me get to 9 mana, and we're starting to cast 9 mana shit. Like it's got to do 9 mana stuff.
Yeah. All right. I'll allow it, I suppose. Ew.
Yeah, I
Ew.
can't wait. So
Gross.
excited for that. I can't wait for Mark's reaction when I destroy everything every turn.
Oh, dude, his eyes are gonna roll so hard. So fucking
Yeah.
hard. No, it's good. Listen, this is a good one. Next week. So this week, over the next 7 days until I see you next, I have earned a whole bunch of points and I plan on doing a bunch of limited. So I'll show up with some limited bullshit to tell you about
I'll
next
try to
week.
get into some limited too, because I liked Murders Limited a lot actually when we played the pre-release.
Yeah, I've been waiting for the quick draft of Murders because it's just easy. You could pay the gems, and I have 15,000, so I could do at least 3 drafts with with just my coins and then whatever. So if I could get 6 drafts, 8 drafts in over this week, that would be an absolute pleasure. And I would love to just kind of say what cards I've seen a lot, what cards going on. I don't know how many stats I'm going to write about this, but I'm going to try to at least collect some knowledge of what
Yeah, some broad
overperformed, what
strokes.
underperformed, and be like, hey, maybe these are cards that can go into standard because after 40 fucking games, there's no murders. There was one deck with the war leaders, and it worked out well. Listen,
It's a great
they're
card.
good. We just gotta find a home for them in this 3-year format. So
Yeah, when they rotate, that's when it's gonna be good. When they other shit rotates.
yeah. Which listen, if that's what it takes, it is what it is too. We're such impatient creatures. If in 1 year all these cards are getting played to hell, good.
So
Then let us complain because by the time we're done complaining, it'll get fixed and we could shut the fuck up about it. But in my opinion, standard right now, they nailed it. It's good.
Mike approves.
It's good. Yeah, and Commander's good. We're in a good spot in Magic. Mahayim, I think. Listen, I think we reached the bottom of the glass here, man.
Bottom of the glass.
I will see you next week. You have a good one. Take it
You
easy.
too. So long.